This is the Helium Highlight Minute, sponsored by Desert Mountain Energy, an early mover among junior explorers in the helium space. Helium has become one of the most sought-after elements on Earth, yet it is now in short supply. Desert Mountain Energy has positioned itself with over 100,000 acres within the helium-rich areas of the U.S. Southwest, known as the Saudi Arabia of helium. Computers, MRI machines, aerospace, the military, and fiber optics are totally dependent on helium. Helium, now a $6.5 billion market, is projected to grow sharply. Desert Mountain Energy, with its active development program, could play a vital role in meeting the helium demand for years to come. It's time to look at helium and the crucial position of Desert Mountain Energy. This Helium Highlight Minute has been sponsored by Desert Mountain Energy, U.S. trading symbol DMEHF, and in Canada, DME. Web address, desertmountainenergy.com. Desertmountainenergy.com. The preceding may contain forward-looking statements which may not be realized.
You're listening to one of the most iconic stations in the nation, an American original. Talk Radio 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com.
This is Rita Cosby, and I'm speaking with Robert Rohlfing, the CEO and Executive Chairman of Desert Mountain Energy. Robert, welcome to New York, and thank you for visiting us in our WABC studios. Please explain to our audience the role that helium plays in the modern world.
Most folks think of helium as just being in balloons. In reality, 43% of the helium in the world is used to cool the magnets on an MRI, followed by working with cooling the magnets for how a CAT scan runs, cools the hard drives. Then it's followed by space launches. We just had another launch of a Falcon 9 Heavy by SpaceX. Every one of those requires millions of dollars of helium. Then you get into specialty gases for welding or to create fiber optics, which is part and parcel of our newest economies.
Robert, some have described Arizona as the Saudi Arabia of helium. Why is that?
Basically, the highest grade of helium that's ever been found was found in Arizona, Pinta Dome, back in the late 50s into the 60s, and it was developed for the U.S. space system at that time. Normal helium has been extracted from oil and gas operations, and it's normally fractional. Could be from 0.03 up to less than 1%, maybe a high of 2%. Arizona had the highest ever recorded in excess of 14%. Also, it's because it's not mixed in with any type of methane, i.e. C1, what we would normally, for your house and whatever, you would be considering that to have a blue flame. That's just pure methane, basically. Then you get in C1 through C7, and then you get hexane, pentanes, ditterpanes, and triterpanes. Normally, those are heavier molecules. You have to deal with them very specifically. You can't just let them go and aromatically go into the atmosphere. You need to capture them. Well, in Arizona, our primary backup to this, it's sourced with nitrogen, which is approximately 74 to 78% of what you breathe, depending on what altitude you're at. So it's an easier way to produce something in the cleanest possible manner, which is what our goal was, is not to be producing helium with hydrocarbons or with CO2.
What is Desert Mountain Energy's land position in Arizona?
We currently have just over 100,000, it's about 108,623 acres is what we actually have at the moment. And we're looking to acquire more in the Southwest and expand elsewhere.
Robert, how cost-effective is it to operate your helium processing plant? And is it environmentally friendly?
The way I started back in 2008 to design a plant that would run on solar, basically because there is no natural gas. You can't run compression or any type of power generation. The nearest power is very expensive. It's not as expensive as it is back east, where it's 29 or 30 cents a kilowatt hour. Out in Arizona, it's 14.9. And our actual costs are less than a penny. They're approximately 0.8 of 1 cent per kilowatt hour. So it's using the sun. We're at 5,200 foot elevation. So it's a way to be, again, as environmentally responsible by design as we can.
Is your facility a refinery?
A lot of people would like to call this a refinery. We're not pulling hydrocarbons and cracking them. We're not tearing hydrocarbons apart and putting them back together. So it's not a true refinery, but it is the first solar-powered helium processing plant in the world. There's a lot of other companies that have had an opportunity they could have, and for whatever reason, they chose not to. For us, we felt this is the best way to produce.
How did COVID affect the timeline in building your helium processing plant?
There are certain critical components of these that require very long lead times due to COVID, and there's still a number of issues that are still resulting from all of that. You just cannot go out and order a lot of the parts. There's a lot of specialty membranes and pressure swing absorption vessels that we had designed specifically for this. Just to give you an idea, for the type of vessels and the plant size that we developed and designed, it normally would have taken an area approximately half a football field in size just for the plant. This fits into 5 40-foot shipping containers. There's over 2,500 feet of nickel steel tubing and other type of piping inside each container. So it's a very intense, very tight controlled, but it gives you also a climate control. That is one of the things in dealing with ultra-high pressures that you have to control your climate. And to lessen the impact of heat or cooling, because at 5,200 feet, we do see -2 to -4 degrees in the middle of winter up there. We will also see 100 degrees. So we have an extremely wide temperature range that you have to build a plant to operate in effectively. And that's what we've tried to do, is come up with a lot of things that they utilize a lot of off-the-shelf things that maybe were used for some other type of industry. And then we have our own take on a number of things. To give you an idea, in the older style helium separation units, one of the pressure swing absorption vessels would have been 10 feet across and 30 feet tall. Through our redesign and our development, they are now 6 feet tall and 30 inches across. And instead of requiring 24 hours to vent the nitrogen that would be generated off of it, takes 3 hours. So there's a lot of things that we've done that trying to cut down on the amount of energy. We've managed to cut down on the energy consumption by 55%. So that's what's enabled us to get down to just approximately 8 acres of solar panels and batteries to run it.
Is helium used in electrical vehicles?
When you get into electrical vehicles, whether it's a Tesla, which has the smallest model has approximately 837 pounds of copper in it, you still have to have all the sensors. You have all of the computers. They use helium to cool the hard drives so that they run faster and with approximately 30% of the power requirement that would normally be needed. So it's a way to make that. And if people want to get into autonomous vehicles, all of the sensors, it really becomes extremely important to have every chip or every hard drive, it needs to be cooled with helium.
Robert, Desert Mountain Energy has received the 2023 OTC QX Best 50 Award, as well as the TSX Venture 50 Award. The company has to be very pleased.
When we received these awards, they were totally unexpected. And it was I'm really proud of my team because this was a team effort. You look at the makeup of our company, we have 3 women on the board of directors. We have the top, what I would consider the top people in the field to have made this possible. And so these awards are really meaningful to me for such a small and young company.
Robert Rohlfing, the CEO and Executive Chairman of Desert Mountain Energy. So great to have you here.
The #1 talk station in the nation. 77 WABC, New York.
This is the Helium Highlight Minute, sponsored by Desert Mountain Energy, an early mover among junior explorers in the helium space. Helium has become one of the most sought-after elements on Earth, yet it is now in short supply. Desert Mountain Energy has positioned itself with over 100,000 acres within the helium-rich areas of the U.S. Southwest, known as the Saudi Arabia of helium. Computers, MRI machines, aerospace, the military, and fiber optics are totally dependent on helium. Helium, now a $6.5 billion market, is projected to grow sharply. Desert Mountain Energy, with its active development program, could play a vital role in meeting the helium demand for years to come. It's time to look at helium and the crucial position of Desert Mountain Energy. This Helium Highlight Minute has been sponsored by Desert Mountain Energy, U.S. trading symbol DMEHF, and in Canada, DME. Web address, desertmountainenergy.com. Desertmountainenergy.com. The preceding may contain forward-looking statements which may not be realized.